Hi, you're listening to God Goes in Government, a weekly conversation with Senator Kim Jackson, where she'll reflect on her journey as an Episcopal priest, farmer, first-time state legislator, and much more. I'm your host, Sharitha J., and I'm honored to share this space with you. Let's begin. Hey, it's your girl Sharitha J, and I'm back with your favorite state senator, Senator Kim Jackson. Hey, Senator Jackson, how you doing?
Girl, I am doing okay. I'm glad to be done.
Yes, you officially made it through Sine Die. Our last conversation, we were right on the cusp of it, and then it hit. And I mean, is it a feeling of relief? Did Sine Die live up to its name?
I mean, I had some good food. Shout out to my LA Tina Coria, who threw the best party ever. I didn't get home till I literally did not get home from Sine Die, not because Sine Die didn't end at midnight. It did. It ended at like 12:05 or whatever. I did not get home to my house though until the roosters were crowing. That's how good of a party it was.
Wow. See,
Yeah,
look,
Trina was with
I'm
me and we pulled up and she was like, the roosters are crowing.
aw.
It was early.
Oh man. Man. Well, that is one way to close it out because session this year, I don't even know what the word is for session, but we've used challenging. That's been one of the words we've gone to. But you guys, I want to know from your perspective because there has to be, and I hope some sense of accomplishment other than getting over the line. That's always good. That's always good to finish. But one of the things I would love to walk through with you in this episode is a exercise I used to do with my youth group as a youth minister, and talking about what our roses are, what our thorns are, and what's budding. I mean, we are in spring, which is to signify, the flowers blooming, and all of that. So let's get into it. Let's get into the weeds, as you say. But let's
Where are we starting? Or are we blooming? Are we budding?
we look.
Thorning? Where are we starting?
Let's get in. Let's start with I always like a good bloom. Let's go with the rose, and then we'll get into the thorn and then the bloom.
Ooh, the flower of the session.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I will say, shout out to the Magnificent Seven is what we call ourselves now. So the three remaining freshmen from last year and the four new
Mm-hmm.
freshmen, which makes us the Magnificent Seven. And shout out to my entire Democratic caucus, right? There are 23 of us total. We make a good team. The smaller kernel of seven, just really, I think we worked really well together, and we do work that helps to support and buster the entire caucus by meeting together, reading all the bills,
Mm-hmm.
discussing, having good debate. And so really proud of them. I mean, shout out to the four freshmen especially, because I feel like, I mean, they came in so much stronger, so much smarter than I did. I just want to be like, two of them had been in the house, so they already knew things, right?
Okay.
The other two just came in like, I'm here, I'm ready to go, let's rock. And so huge shout out to them. I think that is the real flower. And even Josh McLaurin even got a bill passed. So Josh McLaurin and Jason Estevez, so two of the four freshmen got bills passed this session. So yeah, kudos to them. They are definitely the flower right now.
Okay. And that's exciting for you. For you guys who don't know, Senator McLaurin actually did make an appearance on Senator Jackson's social media. I believe you guys were twinning unexpectedly,
That's
and might have been
that's
a little
right.
bit had exchanged. I think he pulled off the Big Daddy hat pretty well considering. But you guys
It's
both had
true.
on these really really clean suits, and so I'm excited for him to have a bill passed. Now, who was it? One of the Magnificent Seven, who made the motion to have Sine Die adjourn early?
Yeah, that would be one of the Magnificent Seven. That's Josh McLaurin again, Senator
Okay.
McLaurin. It was a bright spot, I think, for all of us who were in on the joke. For those who weren't, they were very confused. The people in the hallway were especially concerned because I think he made the motion to adjourn Sine Die, like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It
It
was
was
way
fairly
early,
early.
like,
Yeah.
given that, yeah, but we had passed the budget, and the only constitutional requirement that we have as a legislature is to pass a budget. And so Josh was like, "We've done our job." And he spoke to the LG in advance and let him know, he wanted to make this motion.
Hmm.
And everybody just fell into their parts. It was actually like quite hilarious. You would have thought that they had actually practiced the whole thing because it because it was just so real. Like, Josh makes the motion, the LG was like, "Let me think about it." He like gets around and they start conferring. All the leadership comes up together and they're chatting, and then the LG rules that it's in order. Like, he ruled that the motion was in order and that it was debatable. And this is what Josh was not expecting, because he was like, "So, Senator from the 14th, you can come and speak to your motion." And so
Oh.
Josh got up there in a very grandiose way, explained how we have done our job and it is time for us to go home. We've met our constitutional requirements, and it was hilarious. It was just really funny. And some other folks came up from the Republican Party to support his motion. Like, there was a big joke from the president pro tem who was like, "I don't ever agree with the senator from the 14th. And
Hmm.
it makes
Hmm.
me nervous that I'm agreeing with the senator for the 14th right now. But it seems to me that this is a good time to adjourn." Like, it was some ridiculosity. That's not a word, but
Like,
it is for today.
we're gonna go with it. We're gonna go with
Yeah,
ridiculosity of today. No.
ridiculosity. So,
Uh,
yeah, and then the minority leader came and spoke as well. And at first she was like, going along with it, and then she concluded with, I respect the senator from the 14th, but I think that we might still have some business left to do. And that gave Josh the perfect opportunity to come back and to withdraw his motion. So
withdraw the
it was
motion.
great. It
Very
added some
good.
levity, it added some levity to what was a really long day.
Gotcha. Well, take us into that long day, and I know we talked about doing the roses and thorns here, but like, how at this point when this motion was made, how many bills were remaining?
Oh, like 50 or something. I mean, there was a long list. I mean, we talked about this in the last pod. I think we had like 68 bills to go through.
That's great.
By then, I think by then maybe we might have been in the 40s. We might have had 40 or so left by then. But it was a lot, and people, bills that matter to people, right? And so
Hmm.
those who were not in on the joke were actually very concerned because some of their bills were being left on the threshing floor, right? But the day, it's so amazing how much time we can waste only to like have to sprint at the end. Like, and that's really how Sine Die worked. We had a really relaxed morning. I think we had an hour and a half, 2 hours for lunch break.
Hmm.
We did debate. We debated the budget. That debate actually lasted a lengthy amount of time because a significant thing that we did with the budget, excuse me, in addition to giving every state employee a raise, which is
Hmm.
great, we gave everybody a $2,000 raise. But in addition to doing that, we also stripped $100,000 at first, and then it came down to $60,000 from the university system. So the USG system, we cut 60K from their budget. And so there was a substantial amount of debate on the floor about why we did that and why we did that as a collective on the floor as it relates to the university system. And so I think after such a long debate, it was time for us to take a break.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, I'm glad that you guys did not adjourn. But also, found a little bit of levity along the way. And thank you for giving us a little insight. I mean, Sine Die is its own thing. And I'm certainly curious. This is your third one, correct? How does that measure up to the first?
It's my fourth one. It's my
Fourth?
fourth one because I had remember I had a special session where we redistrict.
Right. That's right.
Third, yeah,
Wow.
it's my fourth one.
Yeah.
I'm
So
becoming a
fourth Sine
pro.
Die. Yeah. At
Mhm.
this point, yeah. So fourth Sine Die. I mean, and it's true. It's this rush, and you guys, and I invite our listeners, if you didn't get a chance, there's always the celebration at the end, correct? Where this like the tickets are thrown up in the air. I think last year I might have referred to them as ballots, and that was just not a good.
I think this is hilarious that you keep like last time you called them ballots, as you noted. This time you called them tickets, that we threw the tickets up in the air. I don't know where you got that from, but it's just paper. It's the bills. Like it's literally the bills because they have to print everything. Everything has to be on our desk that we are, well, in theory. I will tell you there was definitely one bill that we did not have on our desk, at least the amendment at all. Nobody saw it except for maybe like the press. Actually, I was talking to a news person and she was like, "Oh, I had a copy of that." I'm like, "Huh, we didn't, but we voted yes on
Interesting.
that amendment." Um, yeah, it just, but anyway, so we just take the bills and start ripping them up. That's what it is. And the bills are different colors based on where they are in the process. So, like a brand new bill
Uh,
is on white paper. A green bill, I think, is that's how it passed the Senate, and the pink version is how it passed the House. And
okay.
then the yellow paper are amendments. So it's color coded. So that's how you get all these colors that are thrown up in the air, is because the different bills are printed on different colors. But it's bills, not tickets, bills.
Bills, not ballots, not tickets. Either way, I get a little bit of anxiety seeing all of that paper everywhere on the floor, and I know it's expected, but the question is always, I'm like, who's cleaning this up?
We might be the only legislature that does that. Like, I have not seen photos from anywhere else. Like, I mean, it's an iconic moment, right? Like,
Very much
you
so.
see the paper, it's the front page of the newspaper every single year. I haven't seen that for other legislatures. So I think it might be unique to Georgia in the
Okay.
same way that the term "sine die" is unique to Georgia because don't nobody else pronounce it that way.
Saturday. Again, I will continue to drive it home. I really had to look this up because even in when we do our captions for social media, it's interesting to see what the captions think that we're saying, and it's certainly not spelled like how Sunny is spelled. Yeah, I find it interesting. So okay, well, I look forward to the celebration because it's symbolic, right, to see it happen. But I'm telling you, on the inside, I'm just like, who's cleaning it up? And but it is awesome to watch you guys like it's like the almost like New Year's or like seeing
Yeah,
a celebration. I'm gonna bring it up. The LSU Tigers women's national champs NCAA. They did that thing. So again, when that
they
confetti
did.
came out, I asked the same question: who's cleaning that up? But
Who's cleaning it up? I, I will respectfully say props to LSU for winning. I am deeply saddened that my Carolina Gamecocks did not. Forever, forever a women's basketball and South Carolina fan, forever and ever. So super disappointed that they didn't make it, but props to LSU for a really great game.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we have at least the champion came from the SEC. I am also a Gamecock supporter. Don Staley, definitely one of the
She's
top
got my
players.
heart.
Yeah, like just not just as a player, as a coach,
She's
and just as a human being. So
yeah, I mean definitely the country's best basketball coach. I mean, I think hands down, she really is just an incredible coach. So Yeah, real shout out to her. Also, I know there are people who went to high school with me who listen to the pod, and so my high school basketball coach, who was also my middle school basketball coach, she announced her retirement this week. Um, so I started doing the math, and I'm like, is Coach Dylan really that old? And she's not. She's still not that old. She must
Mhm.
have been really close to our age when she was coaching us because, by the math, like she's still only in her 50s, but she announced her retirement after 30 years of coaching. So,
Mm.
yeah, props to Coach Dylan. She got some state championships under her belt. She definitely taught me a lot. And yeah, that's a
Well,
hometown shout out.
there you go. Look, this is what the platform is for. It's your archive. So, yes, shout out to Coach Dillon and congratulations on your retirement. I don't know you, but now I do. And now our
There you go.
followers know of you as well. So, so all right. Look, we got into the celebration and all that. Lots of roses have happened from championships to tossing up the bills in the air. Give us the thorns because it's been a thorny path to say the least this session.
Yeah, I mean, I think hands down the thorniest is definitely SB 140. It was signed into law during session. The fact that there will be continued attack on tax on people who are of trans experience. That was we got a preview of that last session when they kind of rammed through the not girls not playing in boys sports, trans girls not being
Yeah.
able to play. So we saw a taste of that. We got even more of it this session with the prohibition on access to medications. And I think the thorniest of it is just knowing that there's more that's coming. Yeah, I did an interview just a couple of days ago with a reporter specifically on this issue, and she's like, "Well, what's next?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to give them any ideas, but I know that there's a next."
Yeah.
And we can just look to our neighbors to the left of us on the map. If you look to our neighbors in Kentucky and Tennessee, you can predict what's next. I can tell you, it's drag shows. That's
Yeah.
that's next. It's the playbook is laid out,
Mm.
which I think is also hilarious. I'm like, has nobody been to a drag show? Like, I don't understand. But yeah, anyway. But I mean, I think that that's next. And who knows what else.
I don't know if they will dare touch that here. And I mean, I know that Georgia is more than Atlanta. Or for those, who true Atlanta. Okay, so which drag culture has its own space. So it's I just don't think they want that kind of heat.
I'm telling you, it's coming because it'll be introduced by somebody who doesn't know Atlanta.
Mm.
And somebody who probably has never been to a drag show in their life. Let me tell you how ubiquitous drag shows in Atlanta are. I this last summer went to Girl State down in
Mm.
Valdosta, Georgia, and I met one of the RAs, like one of the residents associates. Well, they have older women who do this, like women who are
Mhm.
retired are part of the Girl State, process. And so this woman who lives like in, I don't know, somewhere very far, very southern, like very country, red
Mhm.
country, she says to me, "Hey, have you been to this bar in Atlanta? That's where my friends are." And I was like, I thought to myself, isn't that like, don't they do a lot of drag shows there?
Mhm.
And I actually said, I asked her, I'm like, don't they do a lot of drag shows there? Is that the right place? And she's like, yeah, my girls are there. And I'm like, what? Like, you come all the way to Atlanta to watch drag shows and have relationships with these people? Like, these are her friends, right? Like, and this
Wow.
woman's like in her 70s. I'm not exaggerating. She's like, the people who participate in these drag shows actually like saved her son's life because he was going through
Mm.
like deep depression, and he started doing drag and like brought the whole family in. It's like this.
Oh,
Anyway,
that's
drag shows are are ubiquitous to Atlanta, and we should not mess with them. But it's coming to a state near you. This one, I'm pretty sure.
okay. Well, we'll hopefully I hope that prediction is far off, but I do know that you um don't say these things lightly. But I also know that you won't sit down uh if such things come our way. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Well,
that's the thorn for sure. Those are the thorns.
yeah. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I know this is God, goats, and government, and we switched it up a little bit, talking about the rose, the thorn, and now we're getting into the bud. And really and truly, the budding, in its own way, can be the God moment. But I am curious of what can we look to? What's ahead? Sessions over.
Mm.
I hope a part of this budding process for you has been getting some rest, right?
Yes, if doing things
Okay.
on the farm counts as rest, then yes, which it does. I
Okay.
prefer active rest, like putting
Mm,
things together. That's the kind of rest I prefer. My wife thinks it's ridiculous, but she's not complaining that the grass is getting cut, right? Um,
fair enough.
so yes, there's rest. We're really working, ramping up with the farm. Really trying to get to a place where we can do a lot of farm visits this summer.
Mhm,
So having people on the property, opening up the community garden. So opening up our tent site, we have a tenter where folks can come and do some glamping. And so that opens up in a couple of weeks. And so it's just a really exciting growth time for us on the farm. And I feel like we are stepping into a phase. We've been farming for 8 years, right? But this is the first year where we actually feel like maybe we might actually like not be in a deficit from doing this work. Like we might actually be able to bring in a little bit of income from doing some agritourism stuff. So I'm super excited about it. It's hard work. There's no question about it, right? Like
yeah. Yeah.
mulch, compost, like moving stuff. It's heavy, it's hard, but it's important. It's good work. It makes me feel good, like physically
Mhm.
and spiritually. And I'm excited to welcome folks to the farm, right? Like it'll be good.
Great. Well, we're looking forward to it. I want to know, Senator Jackson, how does that show up for you as a legislator, this farm work? Because some people don't see or might not see the connection. I mean, I know that you serve on the ag committee and things of that nature, but how is this particular season of growth and budding, how does that show up for you as a legislator?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm constantly thinking about legislation, right? And as it
Mm,
relates to farming, because it's not just my own work that I do, but I am very connected to other farmers. Um, but I also think that there's a certain amount of not optimism, but actual hope that comes from being a farmer
mm,
that I think I bring to my work as a legislator and as a priest. And so, I mean, you think about it, when you plant a seed, that seed is nothing but that action of planting that is nothing but an act of hope. It's an act of hope or an act of faith, right? Because you take a
mm,
little tiny thing, you put it in the ground, and you try to give it all the best conditions that you can to make sure that it thrives. But ultimately, it's an act of hope. You put those
mm,
seeds in the ground and you hope that they will multiply and bring forth many, many fruits, right? Every blueberry that I put down in the ground, I am hoping for years and years worth of gallons of yield. And so I think that same type of hope, the same type of kind of cultivating an atmosphere where things can thrive, where people can thrive, that is at the root and the core of the work that I try to do in the legislature, right? Like we've talked a bit about how there have been people who've come to my office, especially during the debates around SB 140, and they've found sanctuary there,
mm,
right?
yeah,
They've found a space where they can be with each other, care for each other, but also find hope. And
mm,
that same sanctuary creating that we do in the Capitol in my office is the same sanctuary creating that we're trying to do on the farm as we invite people to come and stay. And it's the same sanctuary creating that you and I do, Sharitha, with Common Ground, right? We create a space together and where we are, we gather and we know that it's holy because it's a place that contains so much hope, right? So I think that's the through line, right?
yeah.
Um, and and it's hard work. right? Whether or not I'm farming or in the legislature or whether we're working with people who are experiencing homelessness, that is also the through line, right? It's hard, but it's good, and it really is it's a very hopeful act in all three fronts.
Mm. Well, thank you for planting those seeds of hope and also doing the work that it takes to ideally see them grow, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of unpredictability out there. We don't know what the weather's going to be. We don't know what the strategy will be for the day. We certainly listen to you encounter different types of inclement weather, so to speak, within under the gold dome, and how to tackle some of the bills that have come up this particular session. But I think you've done not only a good job, but you've done so with integrity. And I think that's the biggest thing, to be able to go
Yeah.
through this particular time and still maintain integrity. You talked about uh, pressing the button, you know, clicking, is it green or red, on certain bills, and just having really is faith that you're making the best decision that you can with the information that you have. So to be able to go through this and maintain integrity, maintain who you are, I think that's a big part of it. Like, to maintain who
Mhm.
you are. Look, good job, Senator Jackson. Get a pat on the back virtually.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And certainly, I don't know if I've said this story on the podcast before, but when I first thought about running, I went and spoke to some legislators who were currently serving. So I spoke with Elena Parent. She
Hmm.
was one of them who's now my colleague, and Elena and I met at a coffee shop outside. And one of the questions that I asked her was, "Can you do this job with integrity?"
Mm.
And I'll never forget her response. Elena said to me, "It's easy to do it while you're in the minority. It's much harder when you're in the majority." But the answer is, because I not only can you do it with integrity, that I had a clarifying comment to that, because I was like, can you do it well, right? Can you be effective and maintain integrity? And she was just like, absolutely, in the minority you can. And I will say, as we get closer and closer to the majority, I understand so much more clear what she means. Even though we're still the minority, the opportunities to compromise your integrity, like, they creep up more and more and more as our votes become more and more valuable. So it is a challenge. It's work. I have to pray and ask God to give me the strength to remain true to who I am. And as we noted last time, there are just some things that just are just ambiguous. Like, you just don't know, right? You don't know if it's good for the people. And so it's not necessarily that you're trying to compromise your integrity. You just don't know if you're making the right choice. So, yeah, but I will always remember Elena for, and I'm grateful that she said that to me with a great honesty, that it's easy to maintain integrity when you're in the minority, when you know that your bills aren't going to get passed, but it's a lot harder the closer you get to the majority. And that's real.
Mm. Very sound advice.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
before we get out of here, Senator Jackson, because that's it. We've made it through session. I know we'll still make space down the line for
Yeah.
God, goats, and government. Yes, we made it. But for now, this is one of our final check-ins for a little bit for the barnyard update. So how is the barnyard? How are the animals? What's the hope happening there? And can we
Yeah.
anticipate any Easter photos? I remember there was a time somehow you came across a bunny,
Oh,
uh, a rabbit, and there were
yeah.
photos. So what's the
Yeah, maybe
energy?
we could we might be able to do some Easter photos this year. The real energy is so we need to move our goats to do some rotational grazing because they've kind of grazed down the area that they're in. And I feel like they look at me every day through the fence and they're like staring at the greener pastures and like calling to me, let me into the greener pastures because there are on both sides, there's so much green. So that is my work of the weekend is to put in a new gate and put up some more fencing so that they can do some rotational grazing and they can go to the greener pastures. Because this in this
Mm.
case, it is true. The neighbor's yard is which is still ours, right? But actually is greener. It is very, very much true. And I feel like they look at me every day and they're like, "What are you doing? Why can't we go over there?" So that'll be my weekend trip.
Okay, it sounds like that is an excellent conclusion for a session. That you guys have grazed down all of these bills, and now it's time to move on to what is ideally greener pastures to continue to do the work around the legislation that's been passed, or to provide a foundation for, I hope, better legislation next session. But yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds like your barnyard is predicting the next phase for our legislators here in Georgia.
Yeah, I think that's right. Hopefully there are greener pastures ahead for us in the Senate and the House. The good news is this
Mhm.
is a 2-year session. So my bill, which is was stuck in the House, is still going to be in the House in January when we come back. So I don't have to start
Mhm.
all over.
Good.
I introduced, this address protection bill.
Right.
That's already kind of geared up and ready to go. So there's actually yeah, there are greener pastures ahead. It's true because my bills are, poised and ready to rock. We already know that the higher education chair is eager to hear from my constituents about their experience of moving to this country and not being able to get in-state tuition. He's prepared to do hearings on that, and hopefully we can maybe even move some bills. So, those are a lot of buds, and
But
that was not a hemp reference, although it could have been. Um, but there's a lot of
yes,
you
episode
caught that?
41, y'all. Episode 41. We're still making hemp jokes. Thank you.
Yeah, I am as always, while I am tired, I am optimistic. I am very hopeful, both for my goats getting to greener pastures, but also for a better session next year. So that's what we're looking forward to.
Okay. All right. Well, it's been another fantastic session of God, Goats, and Government. Until
Until 2024, maybe. We might do a pop-up, but my words of gratitude to you, Sharitha J, for continuing to host. This is your fourth season with me of doing this. And just, yeah. And remember, like it started out with a random phone call from me saying, I don't even know how to do this, but I think we should do it. And I don't know what it's going to be. And you've made it be. And so, so much gratitude to you. Shout out to our listeners. So much gratefulness to the listeners who, especially those of you who text and call and reach out and like, hey, I don't want to name names because there are too many people and somebody's feelings will get hurt. But deep and sincere gratitude to folks who listen to this podcast, who are part of my life, people some I've met, many people whom I've never met. And so just very, very grateful for this opportunity. And I hope folks have a great summer. And I look forward to um, being in touch throughout the year on our social, right? At Kim for
absolutely.
Georgia. You can follow me. I do still continue to do the work. The work doesn't stop. It just looks a little bit different. So thanks to everybody. Until next time, be easy and continue to listen to the old podcast if you have time and share it with other people.